Hello YouTube. Today I wanted to talk about the Lenovo ThinkPad Helix 2-in-1. Now this is a unique piece of machinery, and that is why I brought it to talk about it here. So this bad boy came out in 2013, and it was a high performance laptop, notebook computer, netbook, travel, whatever you want to call it. Small form factor computer that had a 2.8 gigahertz Intel i5V Pro, and it had 4 gigs of RAM and 180 gigs of storage. Now, when this thing came out in 2013, it was one of the top of the line laptops, and it was $1,600, which back then was an insane amount of money, but nowadays it seems like business laptops and gaming laptops seem to go for $2,000 or $3,000. So people wouldn't even like bat an eye at 1600, especially for like a MacBook. 11 years later, at the end of 2024, you can pick this thing up for about $200, so 8 times cheaper than the original price. However, there are still some places that you can buy this brand new, still for $1,679. And surprisingly, there are a few university and college bookstores that still have brand new unopened versions of this laptop that have been, I guess, sitting in boxes for years, a decade, or something like that. But this thing was crazy when it came out. So let me show you what we got here. We have what looks to be a regular laptop with this line right here. It came with Windows 8 Pro and is now running Windows 10 Pro. And there is this little button right here. And when you push that button, the laptop comes apart and you have a full-blown Windows tablet. It runs exactly like a Windows computer with the start bar here at the bottom, and it looks exactly like a Windows desktop. You have this pen that is housed in the body, and this can be used for all sorts of art and drawing. It actually works really well for diagrams, pictures, and it works great for art. I am not an artist, but I do know people who have used this to draw, and even the profile picture on my gaming channel was drawn on a Helix like this. Now, while this thing is set up like a tablet, it is way more powerful than any tablet of this time period. It has a much better cooling system. It intakes air here at the bottom, and it exhausts it here at the top. And it has a small battery to do all of the tasks that you need to. However, if you wanted to boost that battery life, the keyboard had a massive battery in it, and it also has 2 little fans right here, so that when you attach the tablet to the keyboard, you would get much longer battery life, and you would have even better cooling as the fans pumped more air through the tablet. And the keyboard versus some of the small Bluetooth keyboards or those keyboards that fold up to protect the screen on tablets, the keyboard here has a lot of really good travel. As with the tradition of Lenovo ThinkPads, it's really great to type on. You have the arrows here, you have all the function keys at the top, and then you can use the functions keys to control volume, screen brightness, turning on the cameras, anything like that. You can see here it still has the sticker for the Core i5V Pro. This thing has 4 gigs of RAM, which at the time was a decent amount, not the best in the world, but you could get this thing with 8 gigs of RAM. The iPhone 5s, which came out at the same time, had 1 gig of RAM, and the Samsung Galaxy S5 had 2 gigs of RAM. Now, this thing had an absurd amount of storage for the time, and it was all SSD flash storage. So you have 180 gigs of storage in this thing, which was absolutely absurd. Nowadays, most phones have way more storage than that, but in comparison, the iPhone 5C had 8 gigs of storage, the iPhone 5S had 16 gigs of storage, and the Samsung Galaxy S5 had 16 gigs of storage as well. This one does have the 2 megapixel selfie camera, which is very common for selfie cameras in 2013, but on the back side, it also has a 5 megapixel camera, which can shoot in 1080p As a ThinkPad and a laptop that was marketed for business, this thing was great for Zoom calls, meetings, anything you had to do like that. But now that you had a 5 megapixel 1080p rear camera, if you were working on a project, you could open that camera and show what you were working on from your higher quality main camera instead of using your selfie camera to try to point at whatever projects you were working on if you were working remotely. If you wanted to do some drawing and some sketching, you could do that on here, no problem as well. A cool thing too is since the screen pops off, you can flip it around like this and then fold this thing flat like such. Pull out the little pen here and do your drawings like this while still having the extended battery life and the extra cooling from the fans. And then if you wanted to turn it into a picture frame and display all of your portraits, you can use the keyboard to prop it up like that so that you can watch movies, you can draw like this if that's what you prefer, or you can have an active picture frame. The multitasking capability on this thing is pretty good. I used this thing for a couple of years while I was in school. I could have all of my documents, I had my electronic textbooks on here. Even though this is an older computer with an older processor, for day-to-day tasks, it works just great. I would say this laptop had a 9-year lifespan from 2013 to 2022. And then big tech companies like Apple started putting more RAM in their devices because they realized that 4 gigs just wasn't enough. Great laptop 5 years after it was made. Great laptop 9 years after it was made. But now it does have enough fast storage to keep up with everything, but it's going to have a little bit of trouble multitasking because of the low RAM. But the processor is still snappy and it still does work in 2024. And you could get this thing with an i7, which was even more powerful than the i5 that this one has. If you were going to pick one of these up because you didn't need a powerful laptop, you just needed something to just type up some documents, I'd probably try to look for around the $140 to $160 price point, depending on how much storage it has. 180 gigs can hold thousands of documents, so that shouldn't be an issue there. And it's pretty well made. I like it a lot. It was very useful for me while I was in school. I could still use this for school if I wanted to, but since I have a more powerful laptop that I use for video editing, I just use that one for school as well. Alright, thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day or night or whatever time it is.